Hey, it's Anthony here at LANDR, and in this video I'm going to show you 8 tips for trap hi-hats. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Let's get right into it. The way you arrange your hi-hats? Hi-hats are one of the most prominent elements in trap and hip-hop music. The way you arrange your hi-hats with triplets, rolls, pitch changes, and the manipulation of samples can really make your track stand out to the listener and be noticed. This is why working with trap hi-hats is essential for any smart producer. I've made a session to go along with this video. It contains a loop that I found as well as an 808 bass line that I wrote along with the loop. All the samples I'll be using are linked in the description below. So let's get started. Tip 1, base your rolls around your kick and your snare. I'm going to go ahead and highlight a section here. Just insert a MIDI clip. And I'm going to put my kick and snare on beats 1 and 3, and that's going to provide me a foundation to base my rolls around. So I'll just click on my grid here, go to quarter notes. I'm going to click a kick on beat 1 and a snare on beat 3. In my case, I'm using a rim and a clap. And then I can highlight this and just duplicate it with Command D. I'll move it over. And then if I want, maybe I'll have the loop going for 4 bars. So I'll just set my loop locator here, and I'll just highlight that and duplicate it again. You want to base your rolls around your kick and your snare because the rolls will lead right into them, making them sound a lot more powerful. I'm just going to finish up the basic beat I have here just by putting some 8th notes on the hi-hats. So I have a hi-hat sample here, and I'll just click them in. I can use the draw tool as well by pressing B and just drawing them in. Nice, so I have a basic beat there. This leads us to tip 2, use the triplet grid for your rolls. So the triplet grid can be found here. I'm just gonna right click it, and you can see it says triplet grid. You can also toggle it with Command 3. A triplet is when you use 3 notes in the place of 2. So for example, I have 2 hi-hats here, and I'm just gonna take them away. Now that my triplet grid is activated, I can put 3 notes in the place of 2, and they're equally subdivided. So they all have the same amount of time going by. And we'll just listen to that. So you can hear there's 2 there on beat 1, and then there's 3 here. The reason why you want to use a triplet grid is they make your rolls sound really smooth and clean and powerful. And I'll just demonstrate that by going to the 32nd note triplet grid. And I'm going to place my first roll here before the snare. And I'll just use the draw tool again. Just draw them in. So that basic beat is starting to really sound stylistically like a trap beat because I have that 32nd note triplet grid roll. So I'm going to place another roll just before the kick drum this time so you can hear what that sounds like. So I'll just erase one of these. Make sure my triplet grid is on to 32nd notes. I'll go into draw mode, and I'll just draw them in. You can start to add the rolls to your beat just before the kick and the snare and just kind of spice them up a little bit, but you don't want to overdo it, maybe not before every single kick and snare. But you can kind of like, okay, I'll just put some here. And then I'll just put a big one here. And just see how that sounds. Hopefully it's not too overpowering. And there's a bit of variety between the rolls and the beats. Oh, I just fixed that up. So now that you have some rolls before your kick and your snare, you can start to spice them up even more by adding different textures to them. And you can do this by adding open hi-hats and reverse hi-hats in place of the original hi-hat on your rolls. To do this, I'm just going to take the original hi-hat sample that I'm using called hi-hat 5. It's in my samples folder here, and I'm just going to look for it. Hi-hat 5, there it is. And I'm going to add a new audio track by pressing Command T. I'm just going to drag it into the audio track. So there it is, that's the audio file. I'm going to reverse it by right-clicking and going to reverse. So that's here. You can also just press R. So you can see it just reversing and going back to normal. So now that I have this reversed, I can actually drag it right into my drum rack and start using it in my beat. I can just drag it just here. So now it's in my drum rack, and I'm just going to start making it shorter by setting the locator. So when the sample hits, it's going to play the audio right away. So there it is there. Now I can get rid of this audio track. I don't need it anymore. I'll go into my clip, and I can start to move around my rolls. So I'm just going to go down to my reversed hat, which is here. And let's just hear how that first roll sounds. That sounds really cool. So it really adds a different texture, and you can start to play with that texture by changing the locators here. So the closer I go to the end of the waveform, it sounds like it's a bit stronger, so I'll leave it there for now. So the other way to add some variety to your rolls is to use an open hi-hat sample. So I have one here. I'm just going to drag it into my drum rack as well. And again, I'm going to use the locators to change the duration of the sample. So it's going to be a bit shorter, but it's going to have the characteristics of an open hat, which is a bit crispier. I'm going to start there, and then I'm just going to drag a different roll to my open hats. So it sounds like it's not articulated well, and you can fix that by just manipulating the locators, just so it loops around that area while I'm manipulating the sample. So that's on. That's going to get annoying fast. So. So now that I've decreased the duration of the open hi-hat, I'm still getting the punch that you get with an open hi-hat, but not the ring out, which is working really great for this roll. All right, let's hear it in context now. I really like where it's going so far. I'm just going to go in and just drag some of these rolls to the different samples that I've put in. And then I'll drag this to the open hi-hat. You can also use the arrow keys. I feel like I want one more roll. Hopefully it's not overdoing it. Just right here, I think. And then I'll use my reverse hi-hat. And I feel like my open hi-hat maybe is just a bit too loud, so I'm just going to go in and decrease the volume. So now that you have a beat with some rolls before the kick and the snare, and you varied up the sounds of the rolls, you can start to change up the sound of the original hi-hat, and you can do this by pitching the hats up or down. There's a couple of different ways to do this. You can do it directly in the drum rack, and that's what I'll get into first. And I'll be using the automation lanes. So if the automation lanes aren't showing, you can just toggle them by pressing A. And if that's not working, make sure your computer MIDI keyboard is off. You can just select it here. See, it doesn't work if I press A, but make sure that's off, and then you can toggle the automation lanes. What an automation lane is it's a line that can change a parameter over time. So for example, if I want to rise in with volume, you can rise it in with the automation lane. So I'm going to be using the automation lane to change the pitches of the hi-hat sample. And to do that, I'm going to go here just to my original hi-hat sample, and that was hat 5. Let's just look for it here. There it is. And then I'm just going to go down to the transpose function here. And that's going to allow me to use the lane to pitch them up or down. So here's the lane I'll be working with, and it's currently at 0 semitones, so it's not pitched at all. So I can just start by finding a section that I want to pitch. So I'll just listen to it a bit. I'm going to start here. What I'll do is just select the part that I want to pitch up. I'm actually going to grab the line here by holding Shift, and then I can drag it up or down. In this case, I want to go up. I'm going to go up to 8 and see what that sounds like. I really like that. Okay, cool. And then you can just find different parts of your beat that you want to pitch up. Maybe just before the roll here, I can pitch it up a little bit. So again, Shift, I'm holding it, and then I can drag it up. Maybe I'll go to 4 this time. Maybe that's a bit too much. I'll bring it down to 6. And then maybe that's going by a bit too short, so I'm just going to elongate that. So I'll just make that longer. Let's just hear that part again. Once you found the sections you want to pitch up and down, you can then copy the automation lanes if you'd like by just highlighting them and pressing Control-C, and then you can go to where they are in the beat. That's really cool. It's starting to get really unique, and I'm varying up the notes, which is making it really interesting. So the other way to pitch your hats is to have the hi-hats on a separate track and use the piano roll. To do that, I'm just going to go to my drum rack, and I'm going to drag the sample just onto this separate MIDI track that I've created. And you can see the hi-hat just shows up here. It's still in a drum rack though, and I want to separate that so I get the piano roll. I'm just going to delete this. And I'm just going to drag Simpler in. And then drag in my original sample. If you know of a quick way to do this, let me know in the comments. I believe that this is the quickest way. And then you can hear my hi-hat is pitched down just by default. Then I'm going to pitch it back up by just highlighting everything with Command A and moving it back up to C3. So you have a bit more control when you're pitching your hats this way. You can just drag notes and then pitch them up or down with the arrow. If you want different pitches going by faster, it's easier to do this than to use the automation lanes. So I'll just show you an example. I can go here, and then I can select this just really quickly. It might not sound great, but actually, I like it. I'm just gonna chuck that in. My triplet grid is on. I'm just gonna chuck that in. It's like a descending scale line. That's cool. So you can be a bit more creative, I feel, in the piano roll like this with your hats. But if you just want to pitch a few things, it might be easier for you to use the automation lanes. So tip number 5 is to change up your hi-hat velocities. The velocities of your hats can be found down here, and you can see they're all at the same level right now. To add more interest to your hi-hats, you can kind of vary them up. You can do this manually by just dragging them up and down. Or you can use the Velocity MIDI plugin, which you can find in MIDI effects and Velocity. And you can just put that behind Simpler here. So before I use the Velocity MIDI plugin, I just want to quickly explain the parameters that I'll be using. Down here is the range. I'm going to keep it between 1 and 127. That just tells the Velocity MIDI plugin which notes to affect depending on the range of the notes and the velocities. So here my notes are around 98, so they're between 1 and 127, so I'll just leave that like that. Here is the range that's going to actually be changed. So I can have my MIDI notes be between 100 and 73. And then I can randomize it so the MIDI notes are going to fall along this line, and we can hear that. I'll go to the extreme so you can hear it. So right now they're going to fall between 31 and 101. And it's going to be a really wide variety by using the random knob. I don't want to go too extreme because it starts to get a bit random and the hi-hats lose a bit of power. But if I want to add just a slight human element, I'm just going to keep a small range between these two. And then I'll just randomize it a little bit. So let's just hear before and after. This is before the Velocity plugin. And after. It just adds a little bit of that human element that will make your hats sit in the mix a bit better. So let's just listen to it in the full mix. So I've added a really nice human element that really makes my hi-hat sound interesting. The next thing I'll do is offset the timing of my hats. I'm going to do this because it falls right where the kick and the snare fall, and I really want the kick and the snare to have some punch. The kick and the snare really emit a strong transient, which means that they have a really short burst of energy right on the beat, as do the hi-hats. If I shift them forward just a tiny bit, it's going to offset the transient of the hi-hats so it's not layered over the kick and the snare. It's going to make my hi-hat sound a bit pushed forward, which is going to make the beat really have more of a human element to it. And it's not going to get in the way of the transient of the kick and the snare. So I can do this by selecting all with Command A, and I can just drag them forward a tiny bit. And let's just listen to the kick and snare before and after. That's after, so let's listen to it the way it was before. I'm just going to drag them back. And I'll drag them forward again. It's really subtle, but it really adds a lot of energy in the full context of the mix. Another way you can add a human element to your hi-hats is by using the Groove Pool in Ableton. The Groove Pool is a really powerful tool. I've made a video that explains it in depth, so I won't be explaining it completely, but I'll just demonstrate how I'm going to use it. The first thing I'll do is just come to my packs here and go to the core library. This is where Ableton has all its core grooves. So if I expand this folder, I can go down here to Swing and Groove. And you can see it has a bunch of different genres you can choose from. I really like the swing grooves. You can really add a nice backbeat feeling with the swing. I'm just going to drag this one into my groove pool. And if you don't see your groove pool, you can just open it by clicking the two waves here. So the groove's in here, and I can apply it to my clip by just going here to the groove on my hi-hat clip and selecting the groove that I've dragged in there. Another option is to just drag it directly onto the clip. So there's a lot of swing. I'm just going to decrease it by using this timing knob here, and that's just going to tell the groove pool to apply 38% of this groove. It really adds a cool feel to the hi-hats. Let's just hear before and after the groove pool. And then after. That leads us to the last tip, which is to process your hats with effects. Now that you have a great hi-hat beat with some rolls, some variation in the sounds, you've pitched them up and down, you can add the finishing touches by just panning them left and right. To do this, you're going to use the automation lane again by selecting Mixer and going to Track Panning. This is going to allow you to pan your hats left and right, which is going to add a lot more stereo width to your track. So you're going to do this the same way we pitched the hats in the drum rack. You can drag it up to go right and down to go left. You can just select the area you want it to affect, and just like when you pitch the hats in drum rack, go down here and select the arrow. You can drag it up or down, so right or left. So I'll select that, and then I'll go left here. I'll select here and go right and then left. And then I'll keep the descending thing I have here in the center. So now that I have some basic panning on my beat, I'm just going to select what I've done and copy and paste it throughout my beat. To finish this off, I'm just going to match the 808 with my kick drum. It's going to complete the simple beat that I had, and then I can begin to arrange the song even further. So to do that, I'm just going to select my 808, hold Command, and then select my drum rack. Then once I pressed fold, I'll be able to see the notes here, and I can start to match up the kick where the 808 hits. And then I'll add a few more as well. Just going to take off the 30-second note grid and just change it to 16th notes and no triplets, because I believe the kick only falls on 16th notes. And then I'm just going to follow the kick and copy and paste it where the 808 hits. Just go here, and then this goes here. I think I missed one. And then I missed one there. Always double check your work. Yeah, that's it. Nice. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really hope these tips help you write some great hi-hats for your trap beats. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe, hit that bell, and comment below what you thought. Did you like it? Did you not like it? You're going to use that, aren't you? Thanks.